Chicago. Welcome on in to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We've got a lot on tap for you here tonight. The calendar has flipped over to April. Well, you know, that's the only thing that it has. There's no, make it feel like March. But anyway, it is April, which means the NFL draft is right around the corner. We are officially in draft prep mode. And to kick it off this year, we're going to have some help. Luke Easterling of Athlon Sports is going to stop by to help us set up our big board, get us ready for what the Bears might do all throughout, not just the 10, but we'll take a look at some of the later picks as well. The second rounders, what might be doing at 39 and 41, who might be some late round guys to keep an eye on. We'll take a look at all that plus more with the Bears. The Cubs are currently playing the Texas Rangers. We'll keep an eye on them and see what could be going on over there, as they're playing in a very cold and frozen Wrigley Field. Will they start a new winning streak tonight, or will the bullpen keep being a problem for the Cubs? And then there's a new Hall of Famer in town. Billy Donovan of the Bulls got down over the weekend. So we will celebrate that and take a peek on the Bulls as we finish up the season. All that plus more coming up right here, right now on Chi-Town Weekly. Buckle on up, everybody. Let's have some fun. Hello, one, hello, all. Welcome on in to the latest installment of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am your host, Adam Karnick. So glad that you are here with us tonight. We have got a ton to get to on the show here tonight. Most importantly, we are going to be starting things off with NFL draft, and we are going to have a guest on to help us do that. Luke Easterling of Athlon Sports is going to stop by. He is going to help us he is one of the draft gurus and draft experts over there at Athlon Sports. I've been using Athlon for the last several years on this show to just help get everybody set and ready for the NFL draft. And Luke is I reached out to Luke and he was very nice to join us on the show. So we are going to kick things off there with him, get you set, get you ready, get your big board ready. We will go through who the Bears might be taking, all that good stuff. If you've got any prospects that you have any questions about, feel free to hit us up in the chat room, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We are going to have a quick word from our sponsors, and then we will be back with Bears Draft Talk. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this. IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Karnick here with you. Got a big show lined up. Going to start things off with some NFL draft prep. Real quick, just wanted to say, of course, thank you again to each one of our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket, Beef Jerky, Vital Apparel, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, and also our newest sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Go to getrawnutrition.com. Use the promo code IESR for 10% off of your order. You heard how to follow along with the station there on the social media channels during all that. Follow IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at IE Sports Radio. This show is available for you online as well. We are on Twitter at IESRC, or you can follow along with me personally. I am at Adam_Karnick. We are going to dive headlong now into some NFL draft prep. It is April, despite the fact that, it is still snowing outside. We'll just move right past that and think happy, warm thoughts, won't we? And to help us do that, to get ready for the NFL draft, Luke Easterling of Athlon Sports is here. Now, I've been using Athlon for the last several years, not for NFL draft prep, but I've also been using them for fantasy football prep. So, Luke, you guys have been very helpful to me in that. So thank you guys for that. I have the new guide right here for this year. So, Luke, welcome to the show. Thank you for hopping on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to be here, Adam. Thanks for keeping us in business by buying the preview. And yeah, man, it's so funny, man. Growing up and reading all those magazines, the college football preview, the NFL preview, and obviously the draft guide, to be able to be a part of that team that makes those magazines now is absolutely surreal for me. It's a fantastic group of people. Love being on that team. We love putting those magazines out. We've grown back to, we put out basketball preview. We got a WNBA preview that's coming out. We got the MLB preview back. So the magazines are making a comeback, and I love it. I'm a big fan of physical media. So glad that everybody's still enjoying the magazines. Keep it up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yes, I'm a millennial, but at the same time, I am kind of an older guy at heart with some things. Having the physical thing that I can write my notes on and my scratch marks and my scribbles and all those kinds of things, this will get used and abused here over the next couple of weeks. And it's a lot easier to do that than to try and do that with my cell phone or my tablet sometimes. So, and for anybody watching the show live here tonight across Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, if there is a prospect that you are interested in, whether it's for the Bears at 10 or 39, 41, whichever round you're curious about, drop it in the comments. We will absolutely get to some of those throughout the show as we go. But wanted to start things off, Luke. Want to start off as we get into the NFL draft. Let's start a little bit more large scale, and then we'll hyper focus in on the Bears a little bit here. Obviously, the quarterbacks are always the talk of every draft, and they always get overdrafted. How many of them do you see going in the top 10 this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think at least two. I really don't see Shedeur Sanders getting out of the top 10. I think I think you could have a strong conversation about him at 2 and 3 for Cleveland and the Giants. And again, I've heard things this week. You hear buzzwords like, oh, he's a polarizing prospect. And I don't understand what's polarizing about him as a prospect at all. I really don't. I think he's a very, very good quarterback. I think that Cam Ward has separated himself a little bit in terms of his physical tools. I think he's got a little bit of a better arm, a little bit better of an athlete. And I think that's why he's kind of locked himself into that number 1 spot. But with Shedeur, I see somebody comparable in terms of his style of play to a guy like Geno Smith, who I think is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league. I think he's a very above average to good quarterback in most areas. And I think, honestly, the fact that people will point to, does teams want to deal with him being Deion's son and all this? I think that's a plus to me. I think a kid growing up with that kind of spotlight and continuing to produce at every level, despite the fact that there's always been people trying to tear him down, always been people trying to, say what he can't do and what he can't be. I think he's got a mental toughness that he brings to the game that any team should want at the quarterback position. And so when you look at, if he gets past 2 and 3 with the Giants in Cleveland, I think the Raiders at 6 and to develop him behind a guy in Geno Smith, who again, stylistically very, very similar players as quarterbacks. And then I think the Saints at 9 is probably his floor. I think there's a gap between those two guys, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, and then the next tier, which would be Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart, however you want to stack those guys. I think Milroe's got a little bit more upside. I think he's got a little bit more boom or bust to him because I think Jackson Dart's a little more developed as a passer right now. But I think there's a decent chance that all 4 of those guys go in the first round in a couple of weeks. And I think the closer we get to the draft, the more you're starting to hear about Jackson Dart, the more you're starting to hear about Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe is going to be at the draft. And so that always signals to me that both sides, both the player side, the agent side, and the team side, the league side, they're pretty confident that he's going to come off the board on Thursday night. And I think it might be a team trading back into the first round, much like the Ravens did to get Lamar Jackson. I think especially if you look at those two teams that I mentioned at the top, Cleveland and the Giants, if they don't go quarterback, say they go Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter in whatever order, those are the teams I would think would be most motivated to get back into the second round. I think Pittsburgh at 21 for a team that's already sitting in the first round there. I think the Rams at 26 would be an intriguing spot for a young quarterback to go and wait behind Matthew Stafford for a year or so. But don't be surprised if all four of those guys come off the board Thursday night.
Yeah, the NFL does not like to have anybody sit in that green. We don't want to have a repeat of the Aaron Rodgers experience from 20 plus years ago. Now we don't want that again, to have him just sitting there. One other prospect that is really intriguing to me, then we'll hyper focus in on the Bears a little bit here. Travis Hunter. First of all, can you play both positions in the NFL? Can you be both a lockdown corner and a wide receiver, first of all? And second of all, what position is, if he's not both, which one's the better one in your opinion?
Yeah, so I think, can he do both? I would say no, but I also said he couldn't do it at Colorado. So he made me look stupid already once, so I'm ready to get hurt again. The way I would put it is I would put as much on that young man's plate as he proves he can handle until he can't, because I think at every level he's continued to prove people wrong, myself included, in terms of his ability to do it. You say he does it at Jackson State, and everybody's like, oh, okay, well that's a lower level of competition. He can't do it in a Power 5 conference, and then he goes to the Pac-12. Then the Big 12, and continues to do it at a high level. And so, I still think it's going to be really hard to replicate that at the highest level of the game, where everything is just, the margins are so thin and you got to be in so many meetings and so many installs and got to double your work. And so I think I'd be shocked if he could do it, full time, 130 snaps like he did in college. In terms of, but again, if anybody can do it, he can, because he's been special the whole way. He's proven he can do things that other people can't. So if he does it again, I won't be able to be surprised. I can't be shocked if he does it again, because he's done it the whole time. So in terms of where I would play him, every team, there'll be 32 different answers to this because of scheme, because of, the rosters and the depth chart. Where are you as a team? Do you need a corner more than you need a receiver? And so for me, I think he's elite at both positions, but I think it's harder to find guys that do what he does well at corner than it is to do it at wide receiver. I think it's harder to find elite cornerbacks, than it is to find, elite, even really good receivers. I think that position is deeper at the next level than it is at corner. And so when I look at his playmaking instincts, and again, I've said this before, if I had to build the perfect NFL draft prospect out of like this whole class, right, I have to take, so-and-so's athleticism and so-and-so's speed and so-and-so's size, like piece together all these different traits that players have. The thing I would take from Travis Hunter is his brain. His dedication to the game, his preparation, his ability, again, even at the college level, to deal with twice as much work as everybody else. And then, and that's just through the week. And then to go out on Saturday and be usually the best player on both sides of the ball, like on the field at all times. He barely came off the field ever, and he was always the best defender and the best wide receiver, the best player on offense in just about every game he was in. And so that to me doesn't just say, okay, you're a rare athlete to be able to handle that physically. You're also a rare human being in your ability to digest, to retain, and then to take that knowledge onto the field on Saturday. I think his football IQ is off the charts. You listen to Coach Prime or anybody in that program, they rave about him as a human being. And so that's the kind of guy you want on your team, want as the face of your franchise. And so wherever he lines up, I'm happy about it. I'm happy to have that guy on my team. I think that I would give the edge to corner in a vacuum, but it really will depend on who the team is and where the rest of their roster sits.
Yeah, the meetings and the off-field stuff, that to me is such the key with Hunter. I think from a physical standpoint, sure, physically you could do both, but to do both full time, there's so much off the field work that you have to then dedicate yourself to. There's a reason that you don't see it in the NFL. Yeah. Not that you couldn't, but it's really hard to do.
Well, it's the reason we've seen nobody really be able to do it. Even some of the best kind of two-way guys we've seen in college. And even then, like, guys like Charles Woodson and Champ Bailey and Miles Jack and all these guys that they're usually really good full-time on one side of the ball and maybe make a big impact in the return game on special teams like Charles Woodson did. And maybe they have like a small package of plays where you try to get them involved on like an end around or a reverse or some trick plays here and there. Nobody did what we just saw Travis Hunter do ever. Like in modern college football, no one has ever been full-time, both sides, and the dominant player that he was on both sides of the ball. And so when you project that to the next level, the way I would do it, again, all things being equal, not really knowing where my roster is, I would want him to play corner full-time, and then I would give him as much offense as he can handle, right? Not just the odd, end around or trick play here and there, but make him your third receiver, put him in the slot, move him around and put him on offense as much as you can. If I get, 90% of the corner he was at Colorado and 50% of the receiver he was, that's still a lot, way more than 100% of a player. And I think he's a rare guy that could do that. I think he could be, even if he doesn't do it full time, I think he could do it at a level that we've never seen before, instead of just guys who were full time on one side of the ball and dabbled a little bit on the other. I think he could be basically a player and a half, if you will, in terms of the snap count.
That all makes sense. Now, the ironic thing with having corner be his primary position, if you will, that's a position that typically in the draft, you don't draft as high. You very seldom see them go in the top 2 or the top 3, because the mentality is, well, all I have to do is throw to the other half of the field and, oh, look, I've completely negated your top 5 draft pick. Does that mean in your eyes, would he slip down to a 6 or a 7 or a 8? What's kind of the floor then for him?
Not a chance. I think the floor for him is 4 to New England, and that's only if in that situation that would mean quarterbacks go 1-2 or even 1-3, I guess, if the Browns went Abdul Carter instead. And so I don't think he gets past New England at 4. If for some reason they would rather trade out of that pick, if someone wanted to give them a king's ransom to come up and get him, I could see that. But again, you're talking about the best player in the draft period, a very rare talent, a very rare, both mentally and physically, a rare player, and a guy that just they don't make him like this. They never really have. He's doing things that we've never really seen. And so if you start talking about positional value and all because he plays one instead of the other, does that make him slip a little bit? I mean, there might be a team or two that feels that way. I don't think the teams that are picking in the top 4, if you're New England and the best player in the draft falls into your lap there, I don't think they pass on him. I think 4 is his floor.
That makes sense. All right, now let's dive a little bit more into the Bears a little bit here. The player that, well, first of all, before we get into specific players, I am a guy, my kind of thinking with the draft is we'll hear every single team say, oh, you draft the best player available. You draft the best guy available. You always draft the best player available. Yet it winds up being a player at a position where it is their biggest need. And then they say, oh, look, the board happened to fall that our biggest need was the best guy available.
Right.
Sure. Whatever you have to do to make yourself sleep well at night. So in the Athlon guy, I smiled.
Everybody had a first round grade on Tom Brady too, right?
Exactly. Right. I smiled when I picked up the Athlon guide this morning because there's 4 needs for every team. For the Bears, 3 of them are on the line. And then there's running back. Yep. Now, they addressed a lot of the interior offensive line stuff in free agency quite well, I feel. They also addressed edge. In your opinion, what is the Bears' biggest need right now? I know what mine is, but
I mean, honestly, I think their biggest, most immediate need is at left tackle still. I think that's where I think the Bears love Braxton Jones more than the rest of us do. I think they have more faith in him at this point than I do. Love to see him continue to grow and hopefully grow into that spot. And I know they've got some other guys there, but I think that's the place where I look and say, what does Caleb Williams need the most? And he needs that position to not be a worry. And so when you're talking about a guy in Braxton Jones, you're kind of hoping he takes that leap. That's that's a leap of faith to me to assume that he's going to continue to grow to that point to where I'm comfortable with that position when so much is riding on Caleb Williams' success or failure. That's a position you just can't have question marks about. Go ask Patrick Mahomes about it. Go ask Patrick Mahomes how much fun it is, even with his talent level and the talent around him. Go look at the 2 Super Bowls where he got his ass kicked. Like it was because that position in particular, but the offensive line, they could get there with 4 and nothing else mattered. The Bucs did it when he had Tyreek and prime Travis Kelce, and they didn't score a touchdown in that game because they had no left tackle and they just couldn't stop them. So that's the biggest need for me, because I think after that, they did a really good job of filling, like you said, the interior needs. They bring in a guy like Grady Jarrett to address the interior of the defensive line. Still think they need long-term help there. But I think, honestly, they just need as much talent as humanly possible around Caleb Williams on both sides of the ball. I think I don't know that there's another team in the league that did a better job of addressing their biggest needs and raising the floor of the roster, right? You're raising the lowest possible output by trading for guys like Jonah Jackson and Joe Thuney, signing a guy like Drew Dahlman to address the interior, bringing a guy like Grady Jarrett, who not a long-term solution at the 3 technique for your defensive line, but he raises the floor. He's a guy that you can plug in for at least this year and know you're going to get a high-quality, hardworking veteran guy who's played a lot of football at a high level, and that's going to upgrade that position to a certain level. So because they have done all that, that's why you see so much conversation about Ashton Jeanty at 10, even though you're like, really, a running back for this team? Like, it's because they've done such a great job filling those more immediate needs to where they can take the best football player available, which Ashton Jeanty is the number 3 player on my board. So if you're talking about just regardless of position, getting that guy at 10 would be huge for a team that's pretty much done everything else. But I do think left tackle is still that position where, like, I think Ryan Poles has way more confidence in what they have in the building than I do. I think if Will Campbell's on the board at 10, I think that's a conversation they absolutely need to have. I don't know if they don't do it there. I feel like you've already got some young developmental guys. So maybe if you don't do it that early with a guy that you think can be an immediate upgrade, they probably wait and they probably address other spots, especially if Genty's still on the board. But most of my mock drafts in those second round areas, they're going defensive line, they're going edge, they're restocking, with younger players behind those veterans that they've added.
Well, you had a lot there. First of all, I love that you said left tackle, because that's where I'm at also. Braxton Jones is, to me, he's outstanding for where you got him. Remember, he was a 5th round pick out of the Big Sky Conference. The fact that you got competent starting quality, and you got average level NFL left tackle out of him. Bravo, job well done, but that's not necessarily, you can always improve from there. So let's have that conversation then about left tackle, as Glenn puts on Twitter here, which left tackle would be the best fit at 10. Let's talk about Will Campbell, because of course the big talk is the arm length. The arm, and you find people that will say that is a problem. You'll find you'll find coaches, of course, always want to coach a guy. I can work around that. You give me a guy, I can turn him into something. Where do you sit on Will Campbell? Because I feel like that's the most polarizing of the left tackle prospects.
Yeah, and again, it's like similar to Shedeur Sanders, where like I don't know why there's polarization just because his arms are an inch too short. This guy played left tackle in the SEC at a really high level and did it against some of the best talent in college football. And so, are there technical, things that I would hope to improve? This is a really young prospect, by the way. I think he's barely 21, and so ton of potential. He's still kind of growing into himself, basically. And so, I always hate these like blanket terms where like, oh, because his arms are, 33 inches instead of 34, he's got to play guard. Like he played a lot of left tackle at the SEC level. You're just assuming that because his arms are an inch shorter, you can slide him to guard, and that means he'll be a better guard than the position he actually played at a high level for multiple years in the SEC. Like it's a very like Madden fantasy football, like plug and play, just change someone's position on the little thing and his rating goes up or down. Like, it doesn't work that way in real life. This is a guy who has a ton of reps at that position, again, at the highest level of college football and one of the best conferences, if not the best in the sport. And you're talking about you have to move him inside because he's missing an inch off his arm length. So The NFL has a long and storied history of guys that have mitigated that by being good at other things. I don't have a worry about him. Again, even some of the technical issues, I think, is just a young, improving player. He needs some polish, but every prospect is going to need some to a certain extent. And so, Will Campbell could go fourth to the Patriots if they want to protect, their investment in Drake May. I wouldn't bat an eye at that at all, especially if Hunter and Carter are off the board. So if the Bears are able to have that conversation at 10, again, I think it's really a no-brainer if you're talking about needing a left tackle, because that's what the film says. That the film is of a left tackle at the highest level, and I don't see what the problem is.
So Will Campbell's there at 10. You fill out your card, you send it in, and then you just sit back and pop champagne. You don't think twice about it.
No, I don't think so at all. Again, you can have a conversation about Ashton Jeanty. I don't even know if he's going to be there. I think he could go as early as 6. To the Raiders. I think when you look at where they're at in the second round, they've got 2 high second rounders that, again, that's where I think you'll get a lot of value from the edge class and the interior defensive line class, because it's incredibly deep at both of those positions. You got to pick at 72, which I think they might be able to, maybe if you go tackle early, maybe that's where you get value at running back if you need a home run hitter. Maybe they get some safety depth to guard against Brisker, who's had some issues staying healthy. Maybe they get a playmaker, another wide receiver with some speed to pair with the rest of that group. But if you don't protect Caleb Williams, none of that other stuff matters. And I feel like Will Campbell, again, a battle-tested left tackle with a ton of experience in the SEC, great athlete, and still kind of raw. Like, he's still got a lot of room to grow. And if he can grow from the player we've seen, which I think is a really good one, I think that makes the most sense there for them. If they're not able to move back, again, I've had some scenarios where they move back, they get an extra pick again, because they have those early picks after they got 4 of the top 72, and then they've only got a 5th rounder and then 2 7ths. So there's a big gap between that 3rd round pick and the rest of that, the rest of the 3 that they have. So maybe they want to add some more picks in that range, get some more value, because again, they could move back. They could get an edge. They could get an interior guy, maybe even get a left tackle like Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas, who I think is a similar player, maybe just a tier lower. But that's the position that I think needs the most. It's the most important, and it's the biggest upgrade they could make.
Makes a whole lot of sense. All right. Well, I got 2 real quick for you, and then if it's okay with you, I'd like to play a quick little game with you, but I got two other spots real quick before we dive into that. And if you're watching live, we got about 160 or so people tuned in live. If there's somebody that you're curious about, hop on into the chat room, drop them into the comments. We'll fire away with Luke and see what we can learn about some guys here. All right. Is Ashton Jeanty worth the hype? I'm a Bears fan. I am born, bled, all the things about running backs, Walter Payton, Gale Sayers, Matt Forte, et cetera, et cetera. You don't have to tell a Bears fan about how great running backs can be. At the same time, drafting one anymore in the top 10 just feels so strange anymore because of the value you can get for them anywhere through the draft. Why is Ashton Jeanty worth the hype, worth all the hype? So
my rule on that has become, and it's evolved over the last few years, that can you get a productive, a good running back in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, even 5th, in any round you can find productive. Yes, absolutely. If you want a great one, you got to pay for him. And so that means drafting them early. If you want Isaiah Pacheco, you can maybe get lucky and find that guy in late on day 3. If you want to find, the Kareem Hunt, or there's any number of middle round running backs that can get you 1,000 yards in today's NFL, yeah, you could probably find those guys. If you want the special players that separate themselves from the rest, if you want Saquon Barkley, you got to take him at 2, like the Giants did. They let him out of the building, which was a really stupid decision, and we can all agree to that. They should have given him an offensive line too, but if you want Saquon Barkley, you got to take him at 2. If you want Bijan Robinson, you got to take him at 8, as the Falcons did. If you want Jahmyr Gibbs, you got to trade up and take him at 12, as the Lions did. And man, they were excoriated for that pick. They got raked for that pick. And guess what? Jahmyr Gibbs is that dude. And Jahmyr Gibbs is a difference maker that absolutely helps them be one of the most explosive offenses in the league. And so, yes, you can get good in the later rounds. You can get it in this class. This is maybe the deepest running back class I've ever seen. So I think that's an interesting conversation is, do I take the best guy in the top 10 or do I take a really good one in the top 40 at the top of the second round? You can have that conversation. It's particular to this draft. But holistically, why is Ashton Jeanty worth the hype as a prospect? He is everything. He's 5'9", which everybody's saying, oh, he's undersized. He's 215 pounds. He's huge for being 5'9". Are you kidding me? He's an absolute bowling ball who has breakaway speed. The contact balance is what separates him from a lot of the running backs I've scouted ever, really, in that full speed into contact. The other guy goes down and he just acts like a mosquito, like bounced off of him, and he stays upright. Again, partly because he's short. He's got a low center of gravity. He's got great balance to be able to keep moving through contact and turn an impressive 8-yard gain into a 68-yard touchdown, because he's so hard to tackle, not just in the open field at all. There's multiple runs that we saw last year from Ashton Jeanty where he got hit by 2 or 3 guys at a time and just found a way and kept running through the tackles through a ton of traffic and just broke it off and ran for 80 yards and scored. And so he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's got the frame to pass protect. He can do everything at such a high level, and he's just such a special player that, again, you can get 1,000 yards for probably 10 guys in this running back class, maybe more. Can you get 2,000 and an MVP type of guy who can do, crazy things that we saw from Saquon last year and that we've seen from Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson? Those are all top 12 picks at the position, and they're there for a reason. Ashton Jeanty will be that again for a reason, and we'll see it wherever he ends up this fall. We will see why it was still worth it to take him that high.
All right. Well, let's use Ashton then to move ourselves into this. This is something that I've done the last couple of years, but I'd like to, Luke, since you're here, I'd like to put you on the spot a little bit. Make your case. This is where we take a prospect and you state the case for why it makes sense for the Bears to take this guy. It could be at 10. It could be with a slightly later spot if it's that level of a prospect. I did have somebody ask me about a punter one time for the first round for the Bears, and I ran with it and we had some fun with it, but we're not going to do that here. Let's start with Ashton Jeanty here. And if you've got somebody in the comments you're watching live, drop them into the comments and we can put them in. I've got a couple names ready here, but let's start here with the running back. Make the case for why it makes sense for the Bears to take Ashton Jeanty with the number 10 pick.
I mean, to me, it's really simple. If you're not going to take a left tackle there, you're going to take what? An edge guy or interior defensive line. Like, it's a deep class. You got 2 early second-round picks. He's the number 3 overall player on my board. Again, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Ashton Jeanty, I think, are the 3 truly elite football players in this draft, regardless of position. So you're telling me I can get that guy at 10, and I did everything else in free agency. I traded for a couple of guys. I addressed my most immediate needs. Again, I think left tackle is an issue, but if the Bears don't think it's an issue and Braxton Jones is fine there, you take Ashton Jeanty because he's easily the best player available in the draft. He helps your young quarterback by balancing out the offense and not being able to just drop a bunch of people. He's going to sustain that run game. He's going to give you home run, explosive, big play ability as both a runner and receiver. He helps your quarterback in so many ways. He's an elite talent. He's a bargain in terms of value, and you filled everything else out in terms of your needs enough to be able to take a luxury pick. I think the case is easy because of what they did in the offseason. All
right. Now here's a little bit more interesting of one. Let's talk edge for a moment. Shamar Stewart for the Bears out of Texas A&M. Only 4.5 sacks in college.
The thing I'll say about that is a few years ago, this is probably 6 or 7 years ago, there was a guy coming out of LSU who had 3 or 4 sacks in his whole college career. Physical traits out the wazoo, tall, long, athletic, super explosive guy. He went 88th overall. He was a late third round pick. His name is Danielle Hunter, and he's doing okay because he figured it out and he has learned to maximize those traits. Now he's in DeMeco Ryans' defense, so he's going to figure it out. A couple years later, the NFL figured out we should probably not wait till the 3rd round to take those guys. And Trayvon Walker went number 1 overall coming out of Georgia, a guy that did not have a ton of sack production at Georgia, but an absolutely rare athlete that tested out of his mind and he went all the way to number 1 overall. You could make the case they should have taken Aiden Hutchinson, but Trayvon Walker's had back-to-back double-digit sack years. He just picked up his 5th-year option. He's finally figuring it out and becoming a dominant pass rusher because of those physical traits. The case to be made is Shamar Stewart is that kind of guy. Shamar Stewart is a guy who, I mean, you can make it all day. If you want to talk about college production, go look at how many quarterbacks and receivers and running backs lit up the stat sheet in college and never did a damn thing in the NFL. And then go look at the fact that Josh Allen threw for 1,800 yards in his last year at Wyoming. Alvin Kamara was the 3rd leading rusher for Tennessee the year he came out in the draft. And so college production, it tells you some things, but it does not tell you how good of a football player you're going to be at the next level. It just doesn't. And so Shamar Stewart, there are only so many human beings on the planet that are that big and that athletic. It's just a fact. And so you could convince yourself, hey, this guy may not be ready right away to be a 10-sack guy, but he might be a 15-sack guy in 2 or 3 years because of the projection. If we can surround him and coach him up, get those rare traits in the building, he's a top 10 talent. He's not a top 10 football player yet. He's an elite athlete, but that ceiling is so high that I think you could convince yourself that we can make him the best version of himself.
I like that. All right. A couple more here for you, Luke. This one just got put in by Glenn over on Twitter. What about Arante Ursary in the 2nd round? If you don't take a tackle in the 1st round.
Yeah. So not last week, but the week before. Every week, by the way, at athlonsports.com, I have a new 4-round mock draft every single Thursday morning. So I'll have another one this week. I try to do trades as much as possible if they make sense. But a couple of weeks ago, I had the Bears getting sniped for Jeanty, right? He goes at 9 because the Raiders traded back, and so they disappointed. They trade back to 18. I think I had them taking Amari and Hampton at 18 to fill the running back role, and then I had them getting an extra 2nd-round pick from the Seahawks in that trade, and it was number 50 overall, and I spent it on Arante Ursary, and so that is exactly what I would think is that. I don't think there's a huge gap between Ursary and a guy like maybe Josh Connerly Jr., who I think could be pushing that, high 2nd round, early 1st round range. And so the fact that he was still on the board at 50, he's a guy that I think could come in and be an immediate and long-term upgrade at left tackle for you. I don't think he lasts till the 3rd, which is why, again, it made so much sense with that extra 2nd I got in that trade scenario. But, if it took an early 40s pick, I wouldn't be opposed to it, again, because the position's too important. I think he'd be a solid value. And he's got the goods. All
right. Couple more, because I had one and then I had another one texted to me. So if you got just a little bit here, Luke,
let's do it.
Tyler Warren out of Penn State, tight end, not necessarily one of the neon flashing light needs for the Bears, but wow, the prospect.
Again, it's about helping your quarterback. If everything is gonna ride or die with Caleb Williams, you got to give him as much help as possible. And so I've got Tyler Warren going to the Jags right now at 5. So that's how much I think of him as a prospect, and think of what a difference he could make to an NFL offense. I think he's got. I hate comparing people to Hall of Famers, but when Gronkowski was coming out, he was not a Hall of Fame thought of prospect, right? He was a 2nd-round pick who had some injury issues. But Tyler Warren is massive. He's super tough and physical, and he's super athletic, and is a matchup weapon downfield. And so when you start to make those comparisons, I think he can do some of the things that Gronkowski was doing coming out of the draft. Obviously, we didn't know he was going to become that type of guy, or he wouldn't have lasted that long. But Tyler Warren is a matchup nightmare if you're an opposing defensive coordinator. He's too big for every defensive back you have. He's too athletic for every linebacker you have. And because of his size and his physicality, his ability to block, you can use him in every type of formation and alignment, and he's not giving anything away. He's not just a pass catcher guy that you just spread out. And he's basically like Kyle Pitts, where he's just like another wide receiver who's just really tall and big. He's not like that. You can leave him in line. You can line him up anywhere you need a traditional tight end to line up. And so you're not giving anything away with your alignments, your formations, your route combos, and your play action game. He can line up anywhere, and it looks like a run play until it's not. I mean, heck, just your short yardage game. Go look at what he did as a Wildcat quarterback for Penn State in those short yardage and goal line situations. So much you can do with an offense. And again, if you're trying to help your quarterback as much as possible, help Caleb Williams as much as possible, Tyler Warren would do a hell of a lot to help your quarterback in a lot of ways.
Makes sense. And then this one just got texted into me, and you brought it up a little bit earlier. Jaquan Brisker, there's obviously lots of injury concern now with him. He missed the entire 10-game losing streak last year. multiple concussions now. Is there a safety you like in this class for the Bears? Obviously not at 10, but where's somebody that you kind of like in that probably second or third round range? Who's somebody that you like there for the Bears? Would it be somebody like a Nick Amanwari out of South Carolina, Xavier Watts, a local Notre Dame kid? Who's somebody there for the Bears?
Yeah, I think Nick Eamonworry for me is a top 20 guy. I think he's a first round lock. I think Malachi Starks is probably a first round pick as well. Xavier Watts is a guy that I would be super happy with on day 2. Either of those second round picks, if that's Xavier Watts, I mean, just go watch the tape. He takes the ball away all the time. If the ball is coming near him, he's probably going to take it away. Just an absolute playmaker for Al Golden in that defense. I think the Bengals are really going to want him now that Al Golden's in Cincinnati as the defensive coordinator. I think he's going to push hard for him in that second round. The guy that would be interesting to me, it's interestingly enough, he's a guy that played at Penn State and wore number 1, which is exactly what Jaquan Brisker did. And it's Jalen Reed out of Penn State. And so he's a guy, again, very well-rounded guy. He's big enough. He can come down and play the run. Opportunistic guy, playmaker type. That's the kind of guy, they get to 72 and they filled every other need. Jalen Reed is a guy who I think is a really underrated safety in this class. I like Andrew Makuba a good bit. He's a little bit undersized, but another playmaker type from Texas, the Clemson transfer. But Jalen Reed is the safety in this class that I really think isn't getting enough love.
I like that. I like that a lot. Well, Luke, thank you so very, very much for doing this. I really appreciate it, especially, it was just this afternoon that this all got set up. So I really appreciate it. Give you a second here to promote yourself. Where can everybody follow you? Where can everybody find you? Obviously, Athlon Sports.
Yep, athlonsports.com. Again, I've got a new mock draft every Thursday morning. It's at least 4 rounds at this point in the process, but I'll have all my rankings updated. We're getting all the scouting reports published. Make sure you go out and get the magazine. Check that out. I've got a podcast. It's called Best Podcast Available. It's the Athlon Sports NFL Draft Show. So check that out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you get your podcast. Subscribe to that. We've had a bunch of cool, great episodes. We've had Matt Miller and Booger McFarland from ESPN. I just filmed one this week's with Connor Rogers from NBC Sports, so look for that on Wednesday. So every Wednesday morning, you'll see an episode of the podcast. Every Thursday, you'll have a new mock draft at athlonsports.com, and come follow me on Twitter at Luke Easterling.
All right. Sounds great. Luke, thank you so very much. I really, really appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure, Adam. Take care, man.
All right. Have a great night. Luke Easterling of Athlon Sports. Follow him at Luke Easterling on Twitter. We are going to take ourselves a quick break. We got to kind of just digest and absorb all that for a minute, I think. And then let's check in on how the Cubs are doing over at the frozen confines tonight over at Wrigley Field. This is Chi-Town Weekly on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Be right back after this.
Hey, Cleveland and Columbus sports fans. This is Jen B., host of the Show of the Land on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in live to the Show of the Land on Tuesdays, where we will cover the Cleveland Browns, Cavs, Guardians, and Monsters. We will also talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, Crew, Fury, and of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll also cover other colleges in the area like Akron, Kent State, Cleveland State, Mount Union, John Carroll, Baldwin Wallace, Youngstown State, among others. So like I said, if you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in Tuesdays to the Show of the Land with Jen B. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, IE Sports Radio family and other sports families. My name is Alden Kay, and I want to welcome you to the AZ Sports Zone on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you're a fan of the Valley and the Grand Canyon State like me, then I've got the show for you. Tune in every week, where I will update you and give you the latest news for the Arizona Cardinals, Phoenix Suns, Arizona Diamondbacks, ASU Sun Devils, U of A Wildcats, GCU Antelope, and of course, the NAU Lumberjacks. Again, if you're a Valley sports fan and like all that is desert sports like me, tune in every week here on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll see you then.
And welcome back on into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Karnick with you here for a couple more minutes. Woo! That was a lot to digest, wasn't it? Luke Easterling did a terrific job coming over from Athlon Sports to break down and help us preview the upcoming draft for the Bears in the NFL. Man, we could just spend the next couple of shows just diving into little bits and chunks that he gave us all throughout that. Want to switch gears a little bit right now, though. The Cubs, they are hosting the Rangers tonight over at Wrigley Field. It is cold out there. I hope everybody that's at the ballpark bundled up warmly for this one. 35 degrees at first pitch, a real field down around 18 degrees or so. Definitely not a night to try to hit it out of the park. Just go for those long singles and doubles, boys. Right now, the Cubs are up 2-0. It is the it is the middle of the fifth inning. So they are in between innings at the moment, getting ready to start the bottom of the fifth here. We had Miguel Amaya hit a sac fly to score Michael Busch in the second, and then Ian Happ hit into a fielder's choice to score the other run. We had John Birdie getting the start at second tonight. He scored the other run. So the Cubs up 2-0. Very successful. First of all, when we talked last week, very successful trip out in Sacramento. Conclusion of the road trip, sweeping the A's out in Sacramento. Love seeing that. Glad to see that. The offense, my goodness. Some terrific work there being done by the offense during those 3 games. But then you come home, you have the pageantry of the opening weekend, taking on the San Diego Padres, though, a tough first opponent, and they get the job done through the first 2 games easily. Win on Friday, bullpen a little shaky on Friday afternoon, but able to hold it down, lock it down, get the job done, winning 3-1. Then the offense comes to life on Saturday. The Cubs debuting those new powder blue uniforms. I don't know. I've seen worse out there. The Cardinals have certainly worn worse uniforms out there before. I don't know that I'm in love with them, but there are worse looks they could do. They win that one 7-1. Just get to them early. 4 runs in the first 4 innings. Just get to them early. Get to send them packing early. Get it going that way. And then yesterday, the Cubs get out again to a fantastic start. 8-3 in the, heading into, excuse me, 7-3 after 3 innings. And you think, all right, here we go. This is they're going to finish the sweep. What a way to open the home portion of the schedule. All right, Ben Brown had some troubles early, especially in that first inning, had some issues, but managed to settle in. And then you just, once again, the bullpen troubles rear their ugly head. And you just don't see you just don't see the consistency that you were hoping to see. Again, it's early. All right. Yes, I know it's April. You're in your 4th series of the season, but we've already got at least 2 blown saves on the part of this bullpen. So I am a little worried. I am a little frustrated. And yes, all right, you had the error from Turner, and that's not doing you any favors. Turner's not necessarily here for his defensive prowess, though. Let's face it, you got Justin Turner to be a DH and an occasional corner infield glove out there. Larry B having some fun in the chat room. But I'm still just this bullpen has me very nervous. And I know you can fix a bullpen on the fly if that's what you decide to do, but you've got to decide to do that as either ownership or front office, whoever it is that's got to make the decision. You've got to make that decision to go that way. And you can't wait until the last second. I'm not saying you should be making any trades now. I'm not even saying that you should be making any trades in May. Do let this play out a little bit, but this is your tough stretch here in April. These are your, let's see what you've got. You're going to learn a lot about your club in the month of April this year. You're going to get a really good indication of what you do and what you don't have in the bullpen on the north side. Don't be afraid that if your instinct is telling you, I don't know that we've got the horses in the bullpen. It looks like you've got the horses offensively. It looks like you're going to get some run production this year. You're not going to have to be scraping by on 3 runs a night, 3-4 runs a night. You can get some offense out of these guys. Don't be afraid if your instinct is telling you come May 1st that, I don't know that we've got all the horses in the bullpen. Don't be afraid to go out and get some horses. Don't be afraid to start the market moving early there if you're the Cubs. All right, we're going to take ourselves one more quick break. And then on the flip side, the national title game is just getting underway in college. There's a little bit of a tie into that here locally too, with some coaching pedigree. We are going to take one more quick break here. You are tuned into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after this. Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your 5-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Lava.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
And welcome back on into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Karnick with you here. Just a couple more minutes left of the show here tonight. We spent obviously a lot of time talking about the Bears draft and checking in on the Cubs. We would be incredibly remiss, though, if we did a show and did not congratulate Bulls head coach Billy Donovan, was named to the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame over the weekend. Yes, it was primarily for his work collegiately, but he has still, with all the turmoil and all the strangeness and weirdness been going on with the Bulls in the last several seasons, Coach Donovan has done a terrific job steering the ship with the Bulls and keeping them at the very least upright and afloat. The captains up in the front office may not always necessarily know which way they're going, but Coach Donovan is absolutely doing a terrific job getting the most out of what he's got on the roster. It was great yesterday after the Bulls game to see in the locker room all the players congratulating and celebrating with Coach Donovan, giving him not necessarily a Gatorade bath, but definitely giving him a little bit of a celebratory shower there in the locker room, just, dumping the cups of water on him and bringing it up. They had a team huddle and broke with the phrase Hall of Fame, which was outstanding. So congratulations to Coach Donovan. Job well done there throughout his career. Certainly has always carried himself in the most professional way possible here in Chicago. Job very well done, Coach. Now, can we get the Bulls out of the play-in tournament, please? As we sit here tonight, looking at the standings overall, they are locked into a play-in spot, but boy, they're only one game back from that 8 seed. There's not a whole lot of time left in the season. They've only got 4 games left to go, but man, if they could get themselves up into that 8 spot, then they're potentially just one win away from actually making the playoffs. What a concept, boy, what a thing that we could have some actual honest to goodness playoff basketball to discuss here on the show. We haven't had that for several years yet. Several years here. Well, that is going to do it for our show here this evening. Some big shout outs and thank yous to go all the way around. First of all, thank you to each and every one of our sponsors. Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. Go to planetjerky.net to place your order. Vital Apparel, the brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Go to vitalapparel.com, use the promo code IESR and get 15% off of your order there. Seal the Deal Wax Seals. Go to iesportsradio.com/seal the deal wax seals. That way you can personalize and specialize anything you've got going out in the mail, or maybe you've got some different some different cards or things that you just want to add a unique touch to, check out Seal the Deal Wax Seals. Definitely take care of you. Also, Raw Nutrition supplements. You're getting new workout apparel. You may as well be able to maximize that workout. Go to getrawnutrition.com. Use the promo code IESR and get 10% off of your order there. And thank you, of course, to IE Sports Radio for providing the platform for this show. Follow them on all the social media platforms at IE Sports Radio. Go to iesportsradio.com to check out the latest for the show. Thank you as well to Larry B, the czar and overlord of all things IE Sports Radio, for all the hard work you do behind the scenes, sir. Thank you to Luke Easterling of Athlon Sports for being the guest of the show tonight. Outstanding work done by him. You can follow him at Luke Easterling or at Athlon Sports. Check him out. They do a terrific job every year. Thank you to everybody in the chat room. Brandon Buck, Larry B, Taryn Rodriguez, Brian Franchione, Wes Trueblood, Matthew Garner, Seth Schwager. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us tonight. Thank you as well to the 270 people watching the show live across Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And thank you to everybody listening later on in the week as a podcast. I really appreciate you making this a part of your weekly routine. Next week, we will be having more draft discussion, tons to dissect and go through there from Luke. We'll have all that, plus more. Until then, we'll see you next time. Have a good week, everybody.